Happy New Year, Theo.
Thank you, Warren.
2018 was really tough. I mean, I think for me, probably one of the hardest years to be a South African investor, where we'd just come out of this whole Ramaphoria moment, and the country was on its path, and suddenly we got chucked into a volatile world with Donald Trump doing his best to cause trouble with China and the like, and we just didn't get rewarded as investors. It ended up being a really, really tough, uncomfortable, difficult, disappointing year, and a lot of the time all the good news just wasn't rewarded for us. What are we in for in 2019, and what should we be doing to try and make this a better year?
I think to try to base decisions on predictions is not going to work. So let's not try to predict the year. Let's rather start with things you can manage and things you should focus on. And I think the first start is look at your will. Now, the will is a boring document. Don't look at the will as a document. Look at the legacy. Look at the legacy that you want to leave, both from how do you want to leave stuff and who do you want to leave it to, but also the process. Are you making the process easy and comfortable? So I would start off with my legacy. Make sure that's in place. Make sure that's how you want it to be, and make sure that the process is the kind of process you want. Once you focus on that, writing the will becomes a lot more easier. So focus on that. Where do you want it to be? How do you want it? First thing. Secondly, look at your short-term insurance. We have to pay away short-term insurance and make sure that it's not too high, not too low, and that you're sufficiently covered. Now is the time to spend a day or a few hours on your short-term insurance, and then also your long-term insurance. Are you adequately covered? Do you need cover? Do you have too little, too much cover? And then other elements included into that, disability insurance and those kind of things. So I would make a day or two to look at my legacy, my short-term insurance, and look at my long-term insurance. And rather focus on that. Get that done, review that, and make sure that's in place for the next 12 months. It just makes the risks a lot less, and you actually will find a lot of comfort once you park that file. But Warren, if you then look at investments, where should you focus on?
Yeah, I think from an investment perspective, it's always a good time to do an investment health check. And from an investment health check point of view, I mean, look at how much you've got in shares, in bonds, in property, and in cash, and just make sure that allocation, and we call it the asset allocation, make sure that that's correct for your circumstance. So if you've seen the stock market drop and it's moved your allocation to shares out of line, it's not a bad time to review that and just make sure that you get that to the right point. And as you say, we can't predict what 2019 is going to be like, so you don't want to be underexposed if the stock market's going to have a great year and you would have been rewarded by being correctly allocated. And similarly, if you've got overexposure to shares and it's another difficult year in 2019, then you don't want to be in a position where you have too much risk. So for me, the asset allocation is number one. Number two, I'd be looking at my allocation to local and international investments. Just making sure that have you got the right balance between rand-based investments and dollar-based investments. And if you haven't, what's the game plan to get that right? And don't forget, from a level point of view, we look at the rand dollar at about 13.50 to the dollar is our key level to convert rands into dollars, and that's an important number just to take note of. The rand's so incredibly volatile that it might be in your favor one week and out of favor again the next week. So it's just something to make sure you've got a correct strategy. And then I think lastly, especially for the retirees, just have a review of your lifestyle costs over the year of 2018. Make sure that you understand what your lifestyle costs are for the year ahead. And if you need to make changes to your whole financial position based on your lifestyle costs, it's important that you get a good grip of what those numbers are now.
I think the key element is focus on the things you can manage and make your advisor your partner in obtaining or attaining your goals.
And I think just don't get too fussed by the difficult markets and what's going to happen with the politics and the economics. There's an incredible amount that we can't control. But what we can control as investors and advisors is our reactions to these volatile events and our financial position to make sure that we can deal with whatever comes in the year ahead. But just maintain an even keel. Don't make big radical decisions just because politicians move the needle, whether it's in South Africa or overseas. I think as we've learned now, making big decisions in difficult times is usually ending up being the wrong decision. So make sure that we are comfortable with what we can do as investors and advisors, but let's not get too radical in our thinking. This is not the time to be radical. All the best for 2019.
Yes, and I hope it's a great year.